everyone.
Hey, it's Juan for PedalsAndEffects.com. I have Troy Zeigler here, and we are going to discuss beat music. And I would throw this to you so you can kind of tell everybody what this band is with this amazing record that you guys made, Improv Sessions in LA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, so beat music is essentially Mark Giuliano's project, and it's his I guess worldwide project at this point. But initially, he started the band in New York with 3 other guys there, and a few years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, he came out to LA, and we ended up doing a West Coast version of it. So the West Coast version is myself on all this nonsense. Tim LaFave on bass, who also plays in the East Coast version, and Jeff Babko on keys and weirdness.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And so basically, you guys went into a studio one day and you blasted out these pieces of music that are on the record, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it was like basically like a one-day session, improv session.
Yeah.
So like you guys you have no idea what you're gonna create as you walk into the studio, or do you have any rough sketches?
No. I mean, I think it's important to Mark and by proxy important to all of us to keep it as improv as possible.
Right.
But you know, it's definitely his project. You know, he's the home base for it, and we're all kind of satellites around that. So he had ideas of tempos and he had ideas of groupings,
right.
So we're all not like just pigpiling on it at once. But apart from that, it was just, you know, like I think for 5 or 6 hours we just improv from beginning to end. And the songs, you know, I use loosely on it are, you know, him then going back and editing them into ideas a little bit more cohesively.
Right. So like the first cut on the record.
Yeah.
It's only 59 seconds or 57 seconds, you know,
yeah.
And so that is something that he heard a bit, and he was like, I'm throwing this on first. I think this is tight. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, we all have artistic leanings, and in the artistic lean, he was seeking to make the record cohesive, because
right.
we knew it was going to be, or eventually we knew it was going to be just a ton of tracks, but he didn't want it to be just like wild. He wanted it to have a flow, and I think it definitely does. So I think that was kind of a great lead-in
right.
kind of for the flow.
It sounds like compositions that were worked on over a long period of time,
mm-hmm.
or whatever, over a period of time.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like improv. I mean, obviously you guys have a connection, so there's this automatic flow happening of inspirational composition, but it's still like there's so much content in there that it literally sounds like you guys worked this up and then went in. And
yeah.
I guess that comes from like you guys knowing each other's music and albums and that whole angle, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to a degree. I mean, I think it kind of speaks to. I mean, it speaks to the degree of musicianship in the group.
Sure.
Just because. It's a very special thing immediately. With the first gig that we did at the Blue Whale was, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, and I didn't know Jeff Babko at all, and he's like a top call
right.
session guy.
Sure.
I'd never seen him play or even heard of him really. And he came in, I mean, he's a wonderful human being, but on top of that, he's an insane badass and super, super versatile. But there was something there in the first performance, and Mark didn't know Jeff either. So when he came in, we actually rehearsed like sort of loosely one night at Jeff's place, and it was okay. Like the times we got together one other time, just me, Tim, and Mark, and it was okay. But it was in the performance where like the real shit was happening.
Right.
So,
right.
So but that's like everybody feeding into it. Like Tim is amazing,
yes.
And Mark obviously is just insane. So,
right.
Yeah, it's all that coming together.
So let's go into it. As I listen to these tracks, what I first heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like I heard the bass line on the second track, and I'm hearing the ring modulator maybe, or whatever it is, are you taking his bass signal and dealing with it, or is he manipulating it?
No, well, that's the thing, and that's like a big part of like kind of the tightrope that we're all on is that because with everybody except Mark, and even Mark to like the last show we did, Mark used my Roland drum, like PDSX, and then I gave him Disaster Transport to run it through so he could fuck with it. But for the most part, you know, I'm the heavily affected, and then Jeff and Tim have their own effects. So it's interwoven in a weird way. On that track, it's probably because Tim's big thing is that Electro-Harmonics ring mod.
Right.
And so he's probably running that, and I'm probably manipulating, because he sends a signal out from his head to me that.
Right. So how many signals are you getting that get to run through this station?
I can go up to 8 with this really super cheap Nady mixer that I have here. That's battery powered.
Awesome.
But it works really well. I had an Electro-Harmonics mixer, but it was only 4-channel, and it was the input jacks were kind of getting weird on it, and I wanted something more versatile. So I think I got this for like $40 or something super cheap. Yeah, I mean it flies in the face of prestige, whatever. So I can get 8 channels in. So typically what I'm doing is getting some mics on the drums, and I try to use weird, like I've got a couple circuit bent weird mics, and then those are going in, and then I'm trying to get a signal, either a direct signal or a mic off of Jeff, usually his Rhodes. Then I get a direct from Tim, and then the rest of the channels are designated for samples or like I've got sound.
Right.
Yeah.
And are you ever manipulating the drums?
All the time, yeah.
So and that's through this?
That's through the microphones,
right.
Yeah.
Why don't we show one of the microphones? We're going to cut to this microphone here.
So this is, it's just a circuit bent telephone. And it was made, I have 2 of these. They were both made by a guy who makes pedals as well. He's got a company called Recovery Effects. They're in Seattle, and he makes amazing stuff. I think as we go through the chain, I'll probably, talk.
So when you say you have 2 of them, so what, are you standing over Mark going like this?
Yeah, exactly. That's all I do is just. No. I try to make it, because we're so influenced by old school hip hop, which at this point is like a total hipster douchebag thing to say, but it's true. Like really old school stuff that sounds kind of busted and broken.
Like all those samplers were so dirty.
Yeah,
SB1200.
Early turntables, all the way up. All the way through the Scratch Pickles and like the X-Men or the Executioners. What they do is amazing, and the technique developed, but the sonic quality didn't necessarily catch up. So when they would cut like a loop or something, it still sounds like gritty and dirty, and that's like, that dirtiness is the human aspect of it. So So with those microphones, I pretty much just have them on the floor, picking up the drums, because they're super sensitive, So they work really well. So I'm using those, and then like a cheap like 58 or something like that as well.